This Lent, the Catholic Courier visited a few churches to explore more about their Stations of the Cross. We asked questions like, how old are they? Where did they come from? Who made them? During the Fridays of Lent, we posted pictures of the stations in our Lenten guide and on social media to see if you could identify which churches those stations belong to. Today, we will share with you where those stations are located and the history behind them.
We started with the first three stations. Jesus is condemned to death, Jesus carries the cross, and Jesus falls for the first time. Those stations were from St. Mary Church on Elmira's south side, and they were installed in 1877. They are replicas of the Stations of the Cross at the Catholic Church of the Sacred Heart in Edinburgh, Scotland, which were painted by Peter Routh. The paintings at St. Mary's are roughly 4 feet by 5 feet and are presented without numbers. When St. Mary's was renovated in 2005, the major color scheme in the church was changed from yellows to a more neutral palette, and the frames of the stations were also painted at that time. It was then that Annie Werner, the interior designer in charge of the renovation, valued the paintings of the stations at $10,000 each. The artist included an image of his own face in 3 of the stations, number 1 and number 3, which are pictured, and number 7, which is not. Can you find it?
Next up, stations 4, 5, and 6. Jesus meets his sorrowing mother, Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus carry his cross, and Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. If you guessed they were from St. Mary and St. Hyacinth churches in Auburn, you would be correct. The stations at St. Mary's have graced the church's wall since 1888, just 11 years after the church was dedicated. The stations were imported from Munich, Germany, and paid for by 14 parishioners, who each contributed $53. After their installation, the stations were blessed by Bishop Bernard J. McQuaid on October 29, 1888. The stations at St. Hyacinth initially hung in the parish's first church building, which was constructed shortly after the parish was founded in 1906. When the parish outgrew its original worship space, the stations were moved to the newly constructed church in 1964. That year, a Polish artist named Bronislaus Ryl refurbished the stations by painting them with watercolors. According to a newspaper article from 1964, it took him 3 days to paint each station with a gold border and black letters underneath that described the scene in both English and Polish.
Jesus falls the second time. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. Jesus falls the third time, and Jesus is stripped of his clothes are the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th stations, which are from the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church in Brockport and St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church in Hamlin. According to Mary Lynn Turner, the parish's historian, the stations at Nativity are bas-relief design. They have been at Nativity only since 2010 and likely came from another diocesan parish that closed. The stations in the main church at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton went up in the fall of 2021 and came from Immaculate Heart of Mary Church in Painted Post, Steuben County, which closed in 2019. Previously, there were plain metal crosses in the same spots where the stations are now. The church also has stations in its daily Mass chapel. According to Sharon Campbell, the parish's business manager, those stations were donated by a parishioner early in the church's history.
The last 4 stations, Jesus is nailed to the cross, Jesus dies on the cross, Jesus' body is taken down from the cross, and Jesus' body is laid in the tomb, are from St. Jerome Church in East Rochester. Liza Barzak, an 86-year-old parishioner, painted the Stations of the Cross after the church's renovation in 2014. She recalled that the stations and several statues were in need of a touch-up after the renovation. So Father William Leone, St. Jerome's pastor, asked her to see what she could do. What made it challenging was the stations could not be removed from the wall. So Barzak, an amateur painter, had to use a stepladder and worked mostly at night with lights set up. It took her over a year to complete the work with several touch-ups.